Hi friends, it's Deanna Williston from Our Blooming Catholic Life. Sorry, coming to you from a sort of new location today. I can't be outside because it's super windy and we didn't get up early enough to set up really a new setup because we were up a lot last night with my little dog's fear. He was afraid for a friend of his. So here's the whole story. Apparently what happened last night was that a neighbor young adult had locked their keys in their car and tried to get them out and kept setting off their car alarm as they tried to get them out. Well, of course, that brought a tow truck with lights, and their giant, 100-pound dog was howling, and a little dog around the corner was frightened out of his mind, and he ran through his electric fence and he totally got shocked doing it. So he ran through his electric fence to get out. And so he ran to that family that had the car alarms and all going off. I don't know if he was running to save the other dog or what he was doing. And of course he'd been shocked, so he was shaking uncontrollably, and they wrapped him up in a blanket. And it was kind of funny because they called me, it's after 9, they're calling me, and they're like, "Dad, I just call Miss Deanna. She knows all the dogs." And I kind of do. And they brought him over, and sure enough, I knew exactly who it was, put a leash on him, and I took him home. And his mother's been sick lately, his human mother, and I knew she'd be worried sick about him. I lectured him the whole way home. I honestly did. And when we got there, his doggy brother, another Beagle, was howling in the backyard, and his parents ran out to greet him, and they were so happy to see him, and they wrapped him up in their arms, and they took him back in. And then of course I came home, I guess with doggy fear scent on me, and that specific dog fear scent, and my dog knew exactly who it was, and he cried himself to sleep. So this morning, happy ending, we did go over this morning and see him, and he is okay. He's completely recovered. But the story it made me think about this morning was the story of the prodigal son. And it made me think of it in a new way because this little doggy really is the prodigal son. They have spent a lot of money trying to keep him in the yard. He's always escaping. He's always running off on adventures. Sometimes he runs down to the little market down the street and begs until they give him food. He likes to run to my house and have a play date with my dog. He likes to get out and have some fun. Well, he's been cooped up for a while. They finally settled on the underground electric fence with the collar. And he hasn't even tried it once. They did the training, and he is, nope, not going out. And they do take him out on river adventures and stuff. They take that collar off, put on another collar, and they take him out on hikes and whatnot. He has great fun. Don't think he does not have a good life. He has a very good life. But that's the thing in the prodigal son, right? He had a very good life, and yet he wanted to go off and seek adventures, just like our little doggy friend. And he's always going off and seeking these adventures. And sometimes it ends up well, and sometimes he ends up afraid and scared and alone. And he may run to the wrong people. This time he lucked out. He did run to the right people, and they brought him to an expert who could help him. I think that part of the story, that doesn't really happen in the prodigal son. The boy eventually comes to the realization that he had it better at his father's house, and he goes home. This little doggy never seems to have that realization. He gets taken to an expert. It was almost always me. Neighbors will show up with a rope tied around his neck and all kinds of things going, I bet you know whose dog this is. And I do. And I know the way home. I love that he either comes here directly or he is brought here, because I know the way home, and I can show him the way home to his father. And when I got there, though, when I took him home, I did lecture him. I did lecture him a little bit. I gave him lots of hugs and kisses, and I told him his mommy would be so worried about him and his daddy would be so worried about him, and we needed to take him home. And when we got home, his doggy brother was out there howling in the backyard. And that doesn't happen in the prodigal son, does it? He's not in the other son who stayed home, the good one, because the other dog has this little halo around his head. He has never escaped once. And yet he was out there howling for the loss of his brother. He wanted his brother back home, safe. in the father's arms, right? With their mother. That's what he wanted. And there's a lot of people who say, why you always talk about your faith? You have the freedom to worship. You don't have the freedom of religion. And number one, that's wrong. It's the freedom of religion, not the freedom to worship. I don't have to keep my faith just in a church. But I know the way home. I know the way to the Father. And sometimes it comes out wrong, like I'm chastising him for running away. But he does need to hear that truth, that people are worried about him and it's not safe to run away. He needs to know that truth. I can't hide that from him. But I know the way home and I love you. So I'm going to take you home. And I'm going to tell you the truth. Now, I'm going to love on you the whole way, but I am going to tell you the truth and I am going to take you home. And that is my goal. I guess that's my goal kind of with all these videos even. I don't know the perfect way home. Right? I don't. It was kind of funny because there was a moment too where I saw the car coming down the street, and even though it's dark and I couldn't really see it, I knew whose car it was. I knew it was his mother coming out driving it, probably in her jammies. I have no idea. I didn't really focus on it. It was such an exciting moment. And I flagged her down and hey, I have him. He's here. He's safe. And it's kind of, that's another poignant moment. It's like Mary being sent out in all the apparitions to find us and be like, hey guys, I know the way home. Like, come listen to me. It's dangerous out there. You need to come home to the Father. It was just so poignant for me in so many ways, just reflecting on this little dog story and how it is so much like that. And then I started thinking about, is the prodigal son really about mankind and brotherhood? And we hear now how a lot of people like to talk about how the father, he didn't wait for the son to come home. He ran out to meet him. And in this story, there's no mother yet. There's no mother yet in this story. Because I find that interesting that Jesus doesn't even bring up the mother, but there is a mother in our story. He gave us a mother. He gave her to us at the cross. So maybe that hadn't happened yet. So he didn't even tell us that part of the story. But in the story of the prodigal son, right, the father runs out to meet the son. He doesn't force himself on him. He doesn't go out to find him and harass him and all that. That's kind of the mom's job. But he waits for him. And the second he sees him, though, he runs out and hugs him and gets him everything he needs to restore him. Everything to restore his dignity and worth and health. That's what the Father brings. He's the instant you ask for it, he's there waiting. But in the prodigal son, the brother is kind of like, oh, he's back. Really? But we have that, right? You have that in the history of Israel where some had gone astray, or even just the history of man, I guess before Israel. There were people who had gone astray, and that's why they weren't in the family, right? But God keeps broadening that definition of family. I'm reading Scott Hahn's book right now. Oh, I can't think of it. It'll come to me, or I'll put it in the comments below. How the covenants grew. It started out right with a man, then a man and a woman, right? So then we had a man, then we had a marriage, then we had a family, and then it was a tribe, right? And then it grew out to be a nation, and then the mission was expanded to the whole world. And it's like that. So, but if you're the one that's always remained with God, do you hold it against the others? Does it matter that they left, or does it matter that they came back? We have that even in the racial divisions that exist today. And I think that's such a false concept. Because for one thing, it's saying that all white people are alike, and all black people are alike, and all red people are alike, and all yellow people are all like all yellow people. And that's such garbage. I'm sorry. It is. So it's not that we're colorblind. I try and get to know a person in their culture for who they are. Yeah, and then there's that whole weird category of white Hispanic and white not Hispanic. What is that? Just ask me my countries of historical ethnicity if you want to know that. Like, what do you want to know? It's such a bizarre concept. But then people are like, well, you're white, so you oppressed people. Your ancestors oppressed people, so you have to pay for it now. And I find that so odd because my family hasn't been in this country that long. And, and we were poor Irish people or we were Germans who came over. Whatever your story is, your family, you may have white skin. This isn't even white. You may have white skin, but your family you might be the first person in your family to live in America, but you're getting blamed for slavery. And so that's kind of an odd concept. Now, is there some privilege that may come with this skin color? Yeah, I guess there is. I grew up pretty poor, so that wasn't really my experience. But I'm sure for a lot of people it is. And I don't know. It's weird. Like when I got jobs, like it was like, oh, you're in band. I was in band too. That's how I got my jobs in high school. I think you got hired, at the fast food place if the owner or the person hiring felt they had a connection with you. So for me, my connection was usually that I'd been in band or something really goofy like that and didn't really have to do with my skin color. But I could see it happening because that's what you're looking for. You're looking for somebody who's like you. So in this one, I think in the Prodigal Son, the brother couldn't relate to the other brother. He's like, I've always done what's right. I've always done my duty. And I don't get why you always had to go off seeking something. Well, blessed was the brother who stayed, who knew the answer was the Father. And have some pity on that one who had to go out into the world because he didn't understand that. He couldn't understand that he had to go out and see what the answer wasn't to know what the answer was. And that we need to have pity on that brother. And that's totally what I heard last night as the poor Beagle howled for his brother outside, just bayed like crazy. Where has he gone now? Will he come home again? I don't know. I need him. He's my brother. And you have to understand this poor little dog, he's always getting stepped on and whatnot by the other one. But he loves him so, and he worries when he's gone, and it's adorable. Did they worry about those who were not in the covenant? Did they know what privilege and honor and just amazing grace they had by staying, by being in the kingdom? And did they have pity on those who weren't? And how do our Christians, do we live that? Do we know what a privilege and an honor and a sheer grace of God it is that we're in the Christian family? Do we understand that in our every move? And do we exude that joy when we see somebody new come in? Do we exude that joy and show them that, hey, we do know the answer. It is the Father. Come with me. I know the way home. Do we show them that joy and that love and that care?